Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the video. This video, I wanted to talk about a topic basically that I have been receiving a lot of questions on. Hey, what are the skill set do I require as the data engineer? I basically will try my best to answer this question. If you wanna get started with data, you wanna work with big data, or you want to transition into into a data engineer, right? Excuse me. So the first and most important thing that I would say, you need to know Python, because most of the time data engineers are working with Python. You would rarely work with like C++ or C sharp, because again, for data engineering and ML, most probably it's Python, right? So I think a good understanding about Python would be great to have. Something like basics of Python, data structures, classes. Then in terms of what libraries you need to learn is basically, first is pandas. It's very good for beginners to get started quickly. Once you are comfortable with pandas, then move to PySpark, because the syntax are pretty much similar. Now PySpark is a distributed, right? Pandas runs on a single node. So with PySpark, you can easily scale for across like multiple nodes, right? So then you really want to get good at PySpark, right? So learn pandas, then essentially learn PySpark. In PySpark, try to learn basics. Try to make sure how you can basically apply custom transformation, filter, group by, aggregates, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so now comes the cloud part, right? Okay, so now your basics are clear on Python, pandas, this and that. Now a little bit knowledge about microservice will be good to have. Now coming to the cloud, as data engineer, you need to know S3 in and out. That's it, full stop. Data engineers work heavily with warehouse, data lakes. So most probably you'll be working with S3 so much, right? So I think a complete understanding of S3 is required. You should know in and out about everything about S3. What are the storage classes, how much is the availability, how to transition from one storage class to another storage class, what are object locks, then how can you monitor matrix, what is bucket replication, how you can transfer data from one bucket to other buckets, tagging, right? So these are some of the basics that you want to know for S3 bucket. How you would transition data from standard to infrequent, infrequent to eventually into Glacier, and then how you would essentially set up life cycle policies on bucket, right? That's something very important to know. Then the next thing important as a data engineer is basically file formats. Okay, so which file format is good, which file format you should be using for Athena, right? That's good to know, right? Then you want to start, then you want to have a very, very, very good understanding about Glue. 99, if the company is on AWS, and 99% or 90% they'll be using Glue as their preferred ETL. So knowing Glue really, really helps, right? Performing ETL transformation. How are you going to identify source schema changes? How are you going to identify when a job fails, right? So know Glue in and out, right? Then essentially you want to jump into, after Glue is done, then you want to know about crawlers. You want to know about Athena, right? How you can do ETL using CTAS. Right, a lot of companies are adopting CTAS as their preferred ETL as well. You could do that in Athena as well, right? You could also write Glue jobs, right? But have a knowledge of both Athena and Glue ETL. In Glue ETL, especially Spark, is where you want to really make sure your concepts are good, right? Once that is done, then you can dive into streaming solution. For example, Kafka, Kinesis data stream, right? Start understanding how you're gonna perform ETL on streaming data. That is something really important to have, right? So maybe then start working on that. Once you're comfortable with that, then start moving into EMR. Learn about a little bit about EMR, when to use EMR, right? So that's really good to have. Once that is done, then now start looking for how to build pipelines, data pipelines. So now you're looking into more basically into Glue workflows, triggers, right? How to orchestrate multiple jobs, right? So probably you'll use step functions, or you'll use Glue workflow. I preferably use Glue workflow in my company. We orchestrate a lot of Spark jobs, right? Basically using workflow, and we essentially schedule everything through Glue triggers, which is fired through EventBridge, right? So then start looking for building like pipelines. How are you gonna know when the pipeline breaks? CDC, change data capture. How are you going to process incremental data, right? So learn about glue bookmarks pretty well, learn about file formats. Then after all that, then start learning about all these stuff such as Apache Hudi, Delta Lakes, Apache Iceberg. Learn about that, start doing the POC on that. Once you're done with all these stuff, right, you're comfortable with that, then start looking into optimization and architecture. Right now you know the basics. Okay, great. Okay, now look into optimization. Okay, which file format is the best, which architecture would be best, Iceberg, Delta Lake, or Apache Hudi. Start learning about that, start reading about that. Now once you're good at architecture level, then if you need, you can go into maybe modeling if you want, right? Essentially, ideally this is a data architect role where they would essentially design like tables, dimensions and fact, right? And but you can start learning as well if you're a data engineer, right? How to design a dimensional, how to do dimensional modeling, right? Facts and dimensions, right? How to move data through various zones, like first you have a landing zone, then from landing it essentially goes to the stage zone, from stage it essentially goes to the dimension and facts, right? So how to normalize the data, how to do all these stuff, right? So most of the time what I'm trying to bring to your attention, Glue and PySpark, is something that you're going to work heavily. A lot of time you might do the ETL part using lambdas as well. So a good knowledge of lambda, SQS, SNS is good to have, because when a job fails you want to alert people, right? So SNS, lambda is something you really want to know in and out as well as a data engineer, right? Again, you might be involved by moving data from various sources such as Aurora, DynamoDB, S3, SQL Server, in which case Glue will make your life so easy. Glue connectors, right? You can connect through various sources through JDBC, right? A lot of time your data would be in different AWS accounts. How you can pull data from multiple AWS accounts, you have to do VPC peering, right? And you can connect to various sources using JDBC connector. So all these stuff will really, really, really help you. So I hope this gives you a big picture about data engineering, right? Then again, there are other frameworks as well, Scala, right? There are other ETL tools as well, but I only go with AWS. So I would say learn all the tools that are available pretty well in AWS, right? Have a good grip on that, then start learning about PII, how to identify PII data in the data lake, how you would mask PII data. So all that, right? And then that's pretty much it, right? That's basically data engineering, right? Creating views, all these stuff is basically what a data engineer would do, right? Building pipelines, and depending upon company to company, you might do different, you might have different responsibility. For example, in my company, I like to do everything, right? I like to have knowledge in each. I was a full stack engineer, right? I have done web development, I have done backend engineering, I have done data engineering role. So I like to learn everything because I want to know everything, bits and pieces from every single thing, right? So hence I was forced as a web developer. I made an application in my company which is called Sourcer, pretty popular app. Then essentially I went into backend engineering, and then I went into data engineering, and basically I enjoy, right? I enjoy learning. Basically, to me, learning is the most important thing, right? Because I like reading, I like exploring, and I like teaching as well, as I said, right? So hopefully that did answer some of your questions. And if you still have any questions that you would want me to talk more about, let me know in the comment section, and I'm more than happy to talk about. So that's it for this video. Keep smiling, keep learning. Knowledge is power, and I'll see you guys in the upcoming next video.